Something's not right.
Okay, so what I'm about to do in this video, purpose of this video is to explain the differences, the fundamental differences between female and male anatomy, because with the times that we're coming into, transgenderism is on the rise, and I believe that people need to be able to discern whether a man or a female is transgender. Sadly, with the society becoming more satanic as it is, and with these devils, starting to push this transgenderism agenda and this transhuman agenda on a massive scale, it's very important and imperative to be able to discern this. Also, I believe there's a lot of secret transgenders pushed in the media, okay, through Hollywood and whatnot. And it would actually blow your mind to realize how many secret transgenders are pushed openly in our faces every day. Okay? So what I'm gonna do with this, and also before I even get into that, science is on such a high level now that they can actually do a pretty good job at eliminating all traces of someone ever being a female, so, or a male. So, and with the hormone treatments as well as different exercises and surgeries, you can almost eliminate most of these features, but you can't eliminate all of them because you can't change someone's entire overall structure. That's not possible. And at the end of the day, males can't give birth. You can't do anything about that. So yeah, they have certain things like certain surgeries like what do you call it? Phalloplasty, where you can surgically put a penis on a female or vice versa, remove a penis and create something that looks like a vagina or a clitoris. But at the end of the day, it's not much you can't turn a male into a female. There's no such thing as transgender. You can't do that. You can't turn a female into a male. It's not possible. Alright? So, first thing I want to bring out is the overall structure of a male versus a female, which is, it's just completely different. Males are usually more massive than females. Alright? Torso is usually straight up and down rather than a female who has wider hips than men. But their shoulders are a lot smaller. Okay, they have wider hips for childbearing, but they have a lot smaller shoulders because males' rib cages are fundamentally larger than females because men are more massive than females. All right, so for that purpose, men have wider shoulders, and their shoulders are usually always wider than their hips. And it's the opposite for females. Their shoulders are usually more narrow than their hips. So that's one way to tell, And another thing is that you have to remember that the size of your skeleton remains the same regardless of whether the body gains fat or muscle. So you can try to gain fat or lose fat to try to alter your image or try to make a deceptive image, but at the end of the day, the size of your skeleton remains the same. You can't change the size of your skeleton, alright? And men typically have larger bones than females. But like I said before, it doesn't matter like how much body fat you put on or how much you take off, your structure is going to remain the same. Different female and male body types, whether a man's more lean or he's more slender, his indent in his waist is usually always going to come above his navel, while the opposite, not above, below his navel. Okay, the male indent, you always see it below the navel, while it's the opposite for a female's waist indent is usually always above their navel. Okay, which is why they get that so-called hourglass figure. Now, when it comes to the spine, a woman's spine usually curves inward below her, posterior region, while a man's spine is a lot straighter than a woman's spine. Now, the hands, as you can see, a woman, her ring finger and the index finger tend to be, close to the same length. But in men, the index finger is usually shorter than the other two, than the middle and the ring finger. So one way you could tell is by looking at someone's index finger. Like I'm looking at my index finger right now; it's clearly shorter than my ring finger. But women's, there's usually tend to be a lot closer in length. That's just a tendency at the end of the day. That's why you have to look at all these signs together in unison. You can't just look at one sign and then make a judgment. You have to look at all these things together. So another telltale factor is female skull versus the male skull. Females usually have sharper upper margins and a smoother brow ridge, and a smaller brow ridge, more vertical forehead. Rather than males, they usually have a more pointed chin and a wider angle of their jaw. Alright? While men usually have a stronger, more square chin, large brow ridge and sloping forehead, a developed ridge where the neck muscles attach, and they have an acute angle on their jawline, okay? While women's usually tends to be a little bit different. Usually tends to be like a lot, how do I say, obtuse, I guess you could say. Here's a picture of a few general differences. Basically, you can tell that men have a square chin, while females have a V-shaped chin. Another telltale feature is you can tell by a man's neck and his shoulders. They usually tend to be wider than females. Females have a smaller neck. They usually have a smaller head than males. So if you see a woman with a huge face, strong chin, wide neck, and wide shoulders, it's right there. The reason that men have wider shoulders than women, it's commonly believed, is because the male's ribcage expands larger during puberty, which is why they try to transgender children before puberty now, so it's a lot easier to make that transition. And men also have more pronounced Adam's apples than females do. Females do have Adam's apples, but they don't protrude the way that men's do. So if you see that, then that's pretty alarming. You should look out for that. Another thing is the angle on female's femur is usually more angled than males. For same reason that I mentioned before, for childbearing purposes. Since their hips are wider, it has to accommodate. So males usually have a smaller angle on their femur than females do. And like I said earlier, actually I didn't even mention earlier that the waist and the elbows and the belly button come around, like the navel, come around the same area. And men usually tend to have longer arms. So what you see is that the waist for men is below the elbows, while the indent, like I said, the waist area, the waist indent area on men usually come around the forearms rather than the elbows, while for females, the indent usually comes around their elbows. So that's a huge sign to look for. Okay, and like I said earlier, men usually have longer arms, and they also have bigger hands. Some females have pretty big hands, but they're not like huge hands. Like I know women that have long hands, but they don't have big hands. Men tend to have big hands or bigger hands. So look out for that. Don't necessarily look for the length of the hands, but the size of the hands, how massive they are. Okay. Now what I'm about to show you is actually a few female to male. Just examples of females to males transgenders, as well as male to female transgenders. All right. Now you see this female here this is a FTM, a female to male. Now you see they did a good job with the shoulder exercises to make the shoulders look a lot broader, but you still see that hip indent. It's really hard to get rid of that. You try to do exercises. Male to females can do exercises to get that indent, but females to males can typically have a hard time losing that. They try to create an artificial indent, probably with surgery or some kind of exercises, but at the end of the day, the original indent is always going to be there. You can't do anything about that. Sorry. Now you see here, this one, you could just look at the jaw. The jaw on this one just gives it all the way away. But this is an open, like I said, all these are open, but this one's an MTF, a male to female transgender. And you see here, that jaw is just something else, man. You can't do nothing about that. And the shoulders are way too wide, man. You could fit, typically, you could fit 3 heads on a male's shoulders. And a female, their shoulders usually slouch downwards, rather than males are broader and more straight across, you know? So this one is just, you know, they tried with the makeup and all that, but can't do nothing about it, man. Here's another one. This is a male to female. Brow ridge, just crazy. You know, you can try to do surgery to lower that brow ridge, make your nose a bit smaller, make your face look like it's smaller, but at the end of the day, man, you get jaw surgery. You must hate yourself, honestly, to do something like this. You gotta change yourself so drastically. Like, look at these. This is crazy. Jaw is very pronounced on this one. Well, on all of these. It's just that jaw, man. They all try to make their nose smaller to give their appearance of a smaller face, but you can't change the size of your skull. Your head's just massive. You know, you can't do anything about that. Cannot do anything about that. So, you know, hopefully that was able to shed some light. You know, maybe later I'll get into some more meat. You know, pause. Some more, you know, deeper breakdowns into the transgenderism agenda. But right now, here's just the milk. You know, the overview of, you know, how to investigate whether someone's a transgender or not. You know, commonly referred to as transgender. I mean, trans. What do they call it? Transvestigating. You know. So with that, hopefully that was edifying. Hopefully that was able to make you a bit more circumspect. So the next videos on this topic, if I ever do any, I say, you know, peace and blessings.